Welcome to the Be About Being Better podcast, where we help people make evidence-based, sustainable, small changes for their health that compound into huge shifts towards a better, more vibrant life. I'm your host, Abby Stasier, a health and life coach, future registered dietitian, a master's graduate from Columbia University, and a certified intuitive eating counselor. And I believe that we can't make lasting or meaningful change single-handedly. So I'm so happy that you're here so that together you can see that a diet-free, sustainable lifestyle is possible, and you can leverage that to live a better life. And remember my disclaimer, this podcast is meant to give you general information and it's not meant to substitute or replace medical advice, a diagnosis, or service treatment. Hello, y'all. Welcome back to the Be About Being Better podcast. I am so excited to bring this guest to y'all today because we talk about so many things in this episode. It's honestly fabulous. And I know this will relate to a lot of people. Marliese Shaw is being interviewed on the podcast today. She is a client of ours at Be About Being Better. She went through our Begin Better program, different than the Academy. And this program, the way that when I developed this program, I looked at our most successful Academy clients and I was like, what did these clients come into the program already knowing? What habits did they already have? What mindset shifts did they already make? And to make clients even more successful in the Be About Being Better Academy, what could they know or be taught beforehand to give them a stronger foundation for our coaching philosophies at Be About Being, a really non-diet, intuitive eating, sustainable, healthy lifestyle approach. And so that's what I took to create the curriculum for the Begin Better program. It's another 12-week program. It takes 10 minutes a week. So it's very low time commitment. And it's very low cost. It's a very cost-effective program, and we have several different payment options for it, even some extended payment plan options, which can make it even more cost-effective and affordable for people. So the information about the Begin Better program and always our quiz, if you're not sure if that's the right program for you. But I'll also link to, we'll link everything up in the show notes. We'll link my quiz if you want to take that, if you haven't already. But I'll also put our info page about the Begin Better program because Marliese is going to talk about it in her experience a bit. She's going to tell, she's got a lot of stuff in her story. So she's going to dive into that. But she also speaks on her experience and her takeaways from the Begin Better program. And it's a program that y'all don't hear about so much. I feel like I talk about the Academy more often because the Begin Better program is a fairly new program. So I'm excited for y'all to hear her experience, and this could be a good program for you, especially if you're someone that has been listening to the podcast for a bit. You're not sure if you want to dive into the Academy. You're not sure if you want to and or are able to make the bigger financial investment to join the Academy. The Begin Better program is a really good way to dip your toes in. You get daily accountability from me, messenger access back and forth. You get a workout plan, you get access to our workout app, you get 2 coaching calls with me throughout the time of the program, and I help pace the healthy habits that we work on and your journey there. So it's like fully customized as far as the accountability. Like I choose what we're working on for the week, but then we figure out, okay, how are we going to weave that healthy habit into your specific schedule? So more information on the Begin Better program is in the show notes. And I just want to give some trigger warnings for this episode because Marliese has a really impactful story, but she's had a hard journey. So the mention of eating disorders in this and history of and some mention of under eating and being underweight. And, she mentioned some numbers as well. So I just wanted to warn y'all of that, but I want to let you know that she has a really positive ending. She's in recovery now and is literally thriving, #thriving. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but I wanted to give those trigger warnings. And she talks about a new type of eating disorder that we don't hear about that much. And that's up and coming in the research. There's some studies done on it, but we have so much more to know about, number one, eating disorders in general, but also for this specific type of eating disorder that she had. So I'm excited for y'all to hear about that. Yeah, she's got a super impactful story, and I'm really excited for you to dive in. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the episode. Hello, y'all. I am so excited to welcome this amazing guest on the Be About Being Better podcast. She is just such an incredible person, a bright light. And as you just heard in the intro, a client of ours at Be About Being Better. We got Marliese Shaw in the house. How you doing, girl?
I'm doing so good. How are you?
Yay! I'm doing well. I'm so pumped to be chatting with you. So as you know, here at Be About Being Better, when we start our podcast conversations, we just like to dive in. I mean, I know people listen to an intro, but ain't nobody got time for a longer intro. So we're just going to dive in, and I'm really excited for people to hear your story because people really need this message, and your story is really going to impact a lot of people. So I'm so pumped to dive in. So my first question for you, Marliese, what is something that you've been through that ultimately made your life better?
So when I was a teenager, I kind of had some eating troubles. I got sent to the Emily program, which is an eating disorder clinic here in Spokane.
Mm.
And I was like the fifth adolescent admitted there, which was kind of scary. Like
Wow.
they had just opened and I was there 5 days a week for 7 hours a day. I was in inpatient care
Wow.
and I was not well. I was like 92 pounds, couldn't even hold up my own body weight, very weak, very lethargic, like no energy. I couldn't even stand for 2 minutes, like it was really
Wow.
bad. And I got out of there and ended up going back, I think like 3 or 4 years later.
Mm.
'Cause I was then living on my own in a very toxic relationship and didn't really take care of myself. I had, like, a lot of fear around food at that time, which I
Mm.
didn't even really understand because I love food. But, when, like, the Naked Juice scandal came out and they had, like, the mislabel and there was a bunch of things in there that were on the label, well, that, like,
My God.
scared me for the rest of everything, and then
Yeah.
it even got worse with, like, the GMOs and fruits and vegetables. I was like, "Oh my god,
Mm.
nothing is safe. I can't eat anything." Like, I just wanted to eat healthy so I felt good, and everything just, like, terrified me. And so I went back to treatment, and they wanted me to do inpatient care all the way in, like, Seattle or Michigan or something
Mm.
like that. And I just couldn't uproot my life at that time, so I, like, cried and broke down and was like, "I got this, I've been here before, I just need a little bit of help." And the doctor was very hesitant about having me do outpatient care, but he let me do it, and everything over time got a lot better. I learned a lot, I reduced my fear of awful foods, and
Mm.
they helped me out. They pretty much saved my life. So
Wow.
that's yeah, it was a long journey, but very worth it.
Wow. Wow. And you really have come out on the other side recovered,
Yeah.
thriving. I'm so proud of you. Number one, thank you so much for sharing your story. I know it takes a lot of courage, a lot of vulnerability to share what you've been through and to like relive it as you're telling it. And one thing that I wanted to point out about something that you said is that you were like, I didn't really understand it. I don't know why I had this problem because I love food. So is that's
Mhm.
that disconnect, and that is a disconnect and a misconception that a lot of people have when it comes to various eating disorders because it's not a choice, and it really it takes over, it hijacks your mind, and
Mhm.
it alters your brain chemistry ultimately. And even though you love food, and people don't do this to themselves because they want to, it ends up really being like a mental illness.
Right, definitely. I think the thing that was very confusing the first time I was there was they didn't even have a diagnosis for me. I wasn't
Mm,
anorexic, I wasn't bulimic, I didn't purge, nothing like that, but I was very malnutritioned. I had an unhealthy relationship with food.
mm,
And so when I went back a few years later, I was so, so grateful that they had a new diagnosis between the first time I went and the second time that I ended up going there. They were finally able to find a proper diagnosis of ARFID for me. And
yeah.
so learning what that was, when you don't know what's going on, you don't know how to fix it, you don't have any understanding of it. So to finally be able to have a diagnosis and learn what was wrong with my eating habits, I had something that I could hold on to, that I could work with and
Mhm.
grow with and work on and develop outside of that.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you highlighting this, and that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to bring you on the show is because when I think when people think eating disorder, they think anorexia, bulimia, and maybe just that. Maybe some people know like binge eating disorder or something like that.
Mhm.
Although people think there's binge eating, but I don't know if they know that binge eating can actually be a disorder. But then there is
Right.
something called ARFID. So could you explain what ARFID is and how you kind of came to first learn about what that was? Was it when you were um, admitted?
Yes, so that was back I was probably like 18 or 19
Mm,
years old. So the second time I had gone, and it's avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. And so it's similar to anorexia, as in you're not eating enough, you're not getting enough nutrients, but it's without the fear of gaining weight. So I've
mhm,
always been very, very petite my entire life. I'm like a green bean noodle, swear to it. And I want to gain weight. I've wanted to gain weight my entire life and just haven't. I think the most I've ever weighed was like 126. And
mhm,
people always say like, "Oh, you're so lucky. I'm so jealous." Da, da, da. Well, it doesn't feel that way when that's all I've experienced. Like my goal is to be 130, 140 pounds. Like, and so to be unable to gain that weight was very hard. It created a lot of like body dysmorphia.
mm,
But ARFID is basically like ARFID used to be selective eating disorder. And so
mm,
it's very picky eating. It depends on like your mood. Your mood has a lot to do with your appetite. You know
mm.
you need to eat, but sitting in front of a meal, your body would just feel sick rather than feeling hungry. And so I've literally
No.
sat at the dinner table and like cried while I'm eating dinner with my family because I couldn't get one bite of dinner down. And I just felt so nauseous and so weak.
Mm,
And I knew I would need to eat, but there was a misfire in my brain to where I'm not feeling hunger. I just feel sick. And eating one bite of food, my body would feel like it like rejected it
mm,
almost. And we do have favorite foods. People with ARFID generally are on some sort of ADHD or autism spectrum. That's where it's
mm.
most prominent, which I just recently learned. I thought that was pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
that is interesting.
Yeah, and so we have a lot of like sensory like favoritisms or dislikes, especially with food. And then we have our favorite foods, like our go-tos. And when I was a teenager, it wasn't very healthy go-to foods. I would eat like a whole bag of Ruffles or Cheez-Its or Wheat Thins. It was really bad. But now that I've eaten a lot of healthier foods and learned about food, like I have my favorite go-tos that are super healthy for me. An avocado toast with tomatoes and fried egg on top or things like that.
Mm,
And I still have my favorite foods, but now I kind of mix it up a little bit more and I'm always trying new things. And so I've reduced a lot of like my pain and my weakness and stomach issues and things like that. So it's been a process. And I mean, it still affects me sometimes, mostly on an emotional level. If I'm
mm,
sad or I'm like having a weird day, I don't really have an appetite. But
yeah.
through that, I've learned that replacing it with like smoothies or an
Mhm,
apple or a banana, some sort of fruit, always kind of kickstarts my hunger back. Just eating
mm.
something small just kind of like activates that, and I can take that throughout my day.
Yes, absolutely. And we recently just did an episode on picky eating tips, tips if you're on ADHD medications. And a lot of the tips in that episode can work for ARFID. Although we recommend for ARFID, you need to, really be seeing a therapist about this and a dietitian as well that really specializes in that because it's very nuanced and a lot of it is psychological because it's so linked to
Mhm.
mood, like you said. And one thing I wanted to point out is there is a difference, and maybe you can expand on this a little bit more, between just having like favorite foods, because I think we all have favorite foods that we like. We have likes and dislikes, and that's fine. That doesn't mean that you have an eating disorder if you don't like to eat everything. Like I'm not a huge pizza person. It doesn't mean that I have an eating disorder, which people think that's crazy, but whatever. But that I think, and let me know if I'm explaining this right. When it comes to ARFID, it's picky eating. You have more safe foods. It's like I can only eat these things. So yes, these are my favorite foods, but these are also my safe foods and like the only foods that I really can tolerate and will turn to. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, especially with
Mm.
eating out. Like if I go to a restaurant, it used to happen a little more. I'm venturing out now, which I'm really happy for when I go out
Slay
and trying
girl.
new things.
Yes,
Yes.
we're here for it.
But it used to be like if I went to Olive Garden, it was chicken fettuccine. that was it. If I went to a burger joint, it was just a super burger with fries. That's it. Like it was always the same thing. And sometimes I still do that because it is just my favorite food.
Mhm.
But with ARFID, you're very like very, very hesitant to reach outside of that because one thing
Mm.
with it is how do I explain this? So if you go into eating a meal and you think that this is what you want, and then you take a bite of it and your body's like, no, I wanted something else.
Mm.
But if that thing's not available and your body's craving it, like that's the only thing that it can eat. And so if I look in my pantry or my fridge and I'm craving a very specific meal and it's not available, you like have a really hard time eating anything else. Like it
Mm.
almost like cuts off your hunger and you're not hungry anymore. Or there's been
Mm.
times where I've made a meal and I think it'll taste really good. I think I'm gonna enjoy it. And then I take a bite and I'm like, no, that's not it. I won't. Like
Yeah.
that's the flavor that my body is looking for and my mind is looking for, and it's not there. So it's almost out the window, which is really
Mm.
hard because you know you need to eat, but it's just not jiving with you.
Right. There's almost this like a particular nature, like, oh, there's something about the texture that I can't handle,
Mhm.
or some other sensory thing, whether it's a smell. And if you're fixated on something with ARFID, you need that or nothing else is going to work.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
It's
this
pretty
can
much like an
also,
all or nothing.
and that's really hard because if you're all or nothing, that can lead to, I mean, you said before you were really malnourished. If you're only eating the same things and you don't have a lot of variety, and maybe the things that you're turning to, like I know for a lot of people that have ARFID, it's like chicken nuggets. It's like those
Love chicken.
good protein. Yeah, right. I love chicken nuggets.
Yeah,
Good
I love chicken.
protein. However, you're missing, if that's the only thing you're eating, you're missing so many essential vitamins and minerals that we need in our diet. So that can lead to deficiencies and make you even more
Yeah.
malnourished. Yeah.
Yeah, one of my go-to meals growing up was just a bowl of Alfredo pasta. Nothing else in it because I was too lazy to cook anything else with it, so I
Oh.
would just boil noodles, pour Alfredo sauce on it, and call it a
Mhm.
day, and I would eat, like, a giant bowl, like, literally bigger than my head. It was ridiculous, and so
Wow.
all I was getting was just way too many carbs and nothing else. I was protein deficient for a really, really, really long time.
Wow.
Protein, it it takes a while to cook, and then I had to really learn all the other proteins that are out there because
Mhm.
for a long time I just thought it was meat. Like I didn't think I would be able to get enough protein from anything else. And so through this journey, I've learned how to upkeep my protein intake, which has been really nice. It gives me a
Yeah.
lot more energy. I'm able to like
Mm.
process the rest of what I'm eating very well. And so that's really cool.
Yes, protein is like the best macronutrient, truly. I mean, I love carbs too, love fats, love all the things. And
Mm,
you said you like avocado toast. I think that's fabulous. But there is something so special about protein. I don't know what it just makes us feel good. It gives us energy. It keeps us satiated. It helps to balance our blood sugar. Helps us to build muscle. It's just all around like the best macronutrient, truly. And it's easy to get deficient in that. And it can make you weaker. Like you said, you could barely stand up. If you're protein deficient, you really are weak. Your hair can get very brittle. It's,
mm,
it can lead to a lot of different adverse effects. So I appreciate you
yeah.
speaking to that. Now, to get yourself to a place of recovery, what are some like key things that come to mind? What helped you in that process towards recovery?
So one of the main things that helped me to get like my fruits and vegetables in, because through my um eating disorder clinic journey, they gave me a packet because I was on a very like personalized diet. And it wasn't like they told me what to eat, but it was portions of protein, carbs, and fruit, vegetables. And when I
Mhm.
looked through the list, it was almost foreign to me. And so I went through and put a blue dot by not only the ones that I had eaten before, but even the ones that I had heard of. And so I may not have eaten it, but I've heard of it before.
Mhm.
And I realized looking through that list, I only knew about one-fourth of the foods out there that existed. And that was just in the list. So I was like,
Wow.
oh my God, I didn't even know that this was food. And so I tried so many fruits and vegetables for the first time,
Wait,
and
can
I
you actually
finally
let us know?
had
Do you remember anything on the list that you were like, I didn't even know that food existed? Like anything that surprised you?
um, not the ones that didn't exist, but I was surprised that I hadn't tried, and so between maybe, like, the last 4 or 5 years, I had tried mushrooms, zucchini, bell
Mhm.
peppers, like, green onions, pineapple, mango, like, for the first time. Like, I pretty much
Wow.
lived 20 years of my life never having any of that. And
Mhm.
so my parents raised us on a very American diet. We didn't eat breakfast, which is kind of sad. And then they would always make the same sandwich every day for us to eat at
Wow.
school. And then when we came home for dinner, it was spaghetti, corn dogs,
Mhm.
burgers, pizza, like very American, no vegetables.
Yeah. They say the standard American diet, SAD, sad. Like the standard American diet is kind of sad. So it's funny that you said that too.
Oh my
Uh,
god, that's funny. I haven't
yeah.
heard that. That's great. But yeah,
Oh.
so I basically had to teach myself these things and teach myself
Mm.
how to cook with them. And something that really helped me was finding foods that I already know that I like. For example, chicken Alfredo. I would sneak vegetables into it. So I would chop up mushrooms very finely so that the texture didn't bother me. Now I love them. So like I'll throw the whole thing in there. But
Love it.
I would also cut up like zucchini, yellow squash. I would
Mhm.
put bell peppers in there. I would throw sausage in there, and so it would be more
Yeah.
of like a pasta mix of just everything, and like half of it would be
Mm.
vegetables. And
Yeah.
so it's really cool to just kind of hide the foods that you're trying in foods that you already like.
Mm.
Another example is like with grilled
Smart.
cheese. I love grilled cheeses. If you slice up like yellow and red bell peppers and put it in the grilled cheese, so good.
Sometimes I'll put a slice of tomato in my grilled cheese and or turkey slices to add extra protein in
I
there.
put ham in mine and it's so
Yes,
delicious.
so
Dip it in the
good.
tomato soup. Mm,
Oh my gosh,
yes.
yes, it's such a good combo. So I love that you said that. It's like, hey, what are our safe foods or our favorite foods, the foods that we can tolerate? How do we make those more nutrient dense? How do we start to sneak in some new foods that we haven't tried before into things that we already
Mhm.
like to kind of sandwich it? And in the case of the grilled cheese, literally sandwich it.
Yes, and then I think the other thing that helped me is because when I was a teenager, I would wake up every morning between 5 and 6 a.m. That's not my wake up time, but I would wake up in excruciating. My stomach would
Mm,
literally feel like it's like ripping me in half. And
wow.
so many mornings, my dad would walk out and I would be like on my hands and knees crawling to the
Oh
fridge,
my god.
grab a glass, and I'm like still sitting on the floor trying to fill up my glass of water. And I would physically have to like move my stomach in and out to get any of it to go down because I would gorge myself at night. So like not getting
Mm,
enough food during the day, I would binge at night. And then I would
yeah.
fall asleep. I would basically eat till I fell asleep. There were so many nights like a bag of Ruffles is literally waking up with me in the bed.
Wow.
And so from falling asleep after just eating so much and consuming way too much at night, I would fall asleep right after. And so my body at some point would stop digesting and the food would get stuck. And so when I woke up, it would be trying to digest with no water intake and things like that. And so it was
Mm,
very painful. And so I had to figure out how to get more calories in during the day so that I would stop
mhm.
gorging at night.
Yeah.
But because I was in so much pain, I didn't want to. My body wasn't used to eating when I woke up. And so what one of my dietitians had explained to me is like drink a glass of water and if even if you're not hungry, like eat an apple, eat a banana, something small, something light to just kind of let your stomach know and your body know like hey, it's time to be awake, it's okay to eat like and it kind of kickstarts your metabolism and your hunger for the day. And so it used to be that I would literally eat like one fried egg or one hash brown in the morning or one piece of fruit and now I wake up and I'm like super hungry. Like I've trained my body to do that, which is great. Breakfast is my favorite meal of the day. And that really helped me to drink a glass of water and just eat something small as soon as you wake up.
Yes, I love that, and not waiting until the end of the day because it's just too much for your body. like you said, you feel sick after, and you don't digest as well. And you don't feel good during the day if you're not eating enough. When we're sleeping, we're in more of a recovery state.
Mm,
So like our brain is consolidating memories, our muscles are healing themselves, our gut wants to take a break. So if you're putting a lot of food in right before bed, there's just not it's you're not going to digest well. Plus, it's really not good to be eating something and then lying down. That doesn't help for digestion and like for reflux purposes as well. So
mhm.
I'm really happy that you found a way to kind of change your schedule and have a new way of eating versus nothing during the day and then so much at night. What are some other things that helped you?
So for the nighttime, because I avoid eating super late at night, I always drink a cup of lemon honey water first thing when I wake up and right before I go to bed. Lemon honey water has literally been one of my saviors for that. It's so relaxing too, very meditative and calming. I'll sit there and read a book or like pretty much just read a book. But that's helped a lot at the nighttime and waking up. And then finding a love for working out, yoga, Pilates, even just going on a walk. I found that if I'm not super hungry first thing in the morning, I'll drink my tea and like go for a walk around the block. And by the time I'm home, just like one block, I'm super hungry. And so just moving my body a little bit starts activating my hunger. And I'm like almost like a pig. Like I'm like foraging for everything in my cupboards at that point. So I never used to work out until I was probably 20, 21 years old. Like, I didn't do anything before that, and so finding a love for working out and moving my body, even if it's just dancing in the morning to music and just, like, a little bit of movement. I mean, this morning I did 10 minutes of yoga and I feel great. Like, you really don't have to do a whole lot of movement to just kinda get in the groove of things.
Yes, I love that. And it's so true. We don't have to do a super intense workout. And if you're not eating enough at all to like just support your basic needs, like are you familiar with RMR, your resting metabolic rate?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I'm sure that has come up in your treatments and things in your research. But for listeners that may not know, your resting metabolic rate is the amount of calories that your body burns just by being at rest. So if you just laid in bed all day, did not move one muscle, your body burns a certain number of calories just to keep your brain functioning, your blood pumping, your heart pumping, your lungs going, your digestive tract going, all the things just that are happening internally. And um, I would say everyone has an individual number of what their RMR is and just at rest, how many calories we burn. But I do the calculation so much. And I've been obviously running Be About Being Better for 5 years now. We've coached hundreds of clients. So I've done the calculation quite a bit. I would say most of the clients that come through the academy, their RMR is between 1,200 and 1,500 calories,
Mhm.
somewhere in that range. So if you're only eating 1,000 calories, 800 calories, like you're not getting enough to even just meet your basic need to keep your body functioning at rest. So then imagine, I mean, I'm talking with my hands right now because I'm always talking, like we're burning calories as we're fidgeting. If you're getting up in the morning, if you're brushing your teeth, if you're doing the dishes, walking to your car to go to work, typing on the computer, texting, picking up your phone to answer a phone call, scrolling, all of these things burn calories because they're just activities of daily living. And then if you put a workout on top of that, you're expending even more calories. So if you're not taking enough calories in, like you're going to feel weak. You are going to burn out. You're going to get hungry really quick. Yeah, it's going to stimulate your metabolism, and eventually sometimes we'll lose those hunger cues because our metabolism will realize, okay, I'm not getting enough food to meet my basic need. So I'm going to kind of shut down some processes. So your body starts saying, I'm going to expend less calories because we're not getting enough. So a lot of times our digestion will slow down, and that can lead to gas, constipation, irregular bowel movements, bloating. Bloating is a huge thing. So when people say they're bloating, it's like, no, you don't need to go get the greens supplement that is you're being targeted for on Instagram or TikTok. Like you don't need a green supplement. You probably just need to be eating more and eating more consistently and not skipping meals. So that's a huge thing that I see is that people are trying to show up for these workouts, but they're like, my body isn't changing or I'm getting super fatigued. It's like, well, we're probably not eating enough. So I'm happy that you realize that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a part of your brain that just keeps you alive and it'll send signals to you that, like, hey, I need this for survival to keep myself alive. And if you don't feed that, which I wasn't feeding that, it's going to stop sending it. And so it gets to a point where you don't feel hungry, you just feel sick.
Oh, that's so true. You do start to feel sick, and I'm really happy that you've gotten out of that, and you've gotten now to a place of recovery, living your life, living your best life. But we found each other, and you decided to sign up for coaching with Be About Being Better. So, what went into that? When did you realize, okay, I do want to sign up for coaching. I need some extra support. Um, yeah, what made you want to join the program?
So a couple years ago, I ended up getting a personal trainer for fitness because, I had never worked out my whole life. I tried going to the gym and I was just like hurting myself. I'm like
Mm,
hypermobile, overly flexible, things like that. And so I was really prone to injury.
yeah.
And so I gained a lot of knowledge and insight from paying for that. And sometimes we gotta pay for what we want, and it's worth it. It's worth it to invest in yourself. And so when I stopped doing that, I was able to keep that knowledge and keep that like snowball of motivation going just with even myself. And so you came up on my TikTok and you just like kept popping up and I was like, "Oh my god, this sounds amazing."
Mm,
And from mentoring with my personal trainer, I was like, "Dude, I could do this in other areas of my life because I have this base knowledge from going through my whole eating disorder journey and
mhm,
it's just I was missing something. I didn't know how to apply it. And so all this information that I had was like so scattered everywhere. I knew what I needed to do, but like, how do I do it? And so going from like scattered knowledge into being able to like organize and apply it was very necessary
mm,
for me. I have a really bad habit of like, I'm going to do everything all at once. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to get everything done and I'm going to eat all my meals and I'm going to cook everything fresh. And like, I would burn out within 3 days. Like,
mm,
3 days is the max, and I was done. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't keep up. And so something that you've really helped me with is, like, you don't have to do it all the time.
mm.
Like, if you can just do one thing for yourself that day, hey, you did something. And so that really, really helped me a lot, especially with, like, I've been going through some things recently, and so being able to remind myself that, like, it's okay to slow down and take time for yourself and then, like, hop back on the wheel as soon as you're ready and like
Yeah.
working on my habits. So like hoping that like my habits and lifestyle change will just kind of continue to trickle into other areas of my life because that's
Mhm.
inevitable.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Once you better your health, I mean, this is why I named my company Be About Being Better, is because if we can optimize your health, kind of free up that mental headspace where you don't have to think about food so much and your routines are more automatic, you don't have as many negative self deprecating thoughts, eh, that just frees you up energetically. Number one, if you optimize your health, you're going to have more energy, more productivity, more confidence. And if we free up that mental headspace, you just have more bandwidth to devote to other areas in your life that can actually move the
Mm.
needle. Like you can show up for your finances, you can optimize your relationships, you can dig deeper, heal your inner child, you have the capacity to heal your gut or go back to therapy and just do more in your career and optimize.
The one thing that
Yeah.
surprised me the most was water. Like I thought I was getting
Mm,
enough water and I wasn't. And so for that first week where it's just water, that's all I had to focus on, which was great. It
mm,
felt very freeing mentally that okay, all I have to do for this week is water and then whatever else I do. And when I got all my water intake for like a week or 2 weeks, I remember I messaged you and I was like, "Oh my god, I have so much energy. I did not realize how tired I was just because I wasn't drinking enough water." And so that snowballed into the next week and into the next week and things
mhm.
just kinda they got smoother.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm so happy that you spoke to that because that's one of the reasons I wanted to structure our Begin Better program the way that it is. We just focus on one healthy habit at a time to get you to see we don't need, especially for someone like you that was very all or nothing. I wanted to do all the things, but I only lasted 3 days. It's like we need to get comfortable just doing something versus just trying to do everything and then doing nothing. And like if you can't do everything, then I'm going to do nothing. So like, almost helping you pace the program. We're just going to focus on one thing at a time helps with that long-term sustainability because you have a stronger foundation.
Yeah, 100%. It was
Yeah.
really cool to just kinda, like, pick one thing at a time, kinda like the James Clear, like, 1% better type thing of, like,
Mhm.
habits. Like, if you just do one thing for yourself every day
Yeah.
for, like, a month, 1% better every day, well, by the end of the month, you're 30% better, and then next month,
Mhm.
you're 60% better. Like, just doing that 1%, that one small thing for yourself compounds so many. It's
Yeah.
I didn't even realize
100%.
until I lived it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm so proud of you. You really took the program by storm. You applied everything, and clearly you're getting so much out of it. And I'm really happy that not every day in the program was bright and shiny for you because I think you have a really good testimonial to this that not every day is going to look perfect. And I
No.
think sometimes things happen, everything happens in God's perfect timing, but for you, I'm so happy that these things happened while you were in the context of the program because we were able to support you and really give you, that personalized support, and you weren't alone going through this and figuring out how do I keep up with my health? How do I do something when in the past I would have pulled back and done absolutely nothing? So you went through a really hard time personally in the middle of the program that kind of led you to maybe quote unquote fall back on some of your healthy habits. Like you were making all this progress and fall back. But this is life, that this is what a sustainable, healthy lifestyle looks like. So, do you mind speaking to that and what helped you in the course of the program get your healthy habits back, get your routine back while you were going through this difficult time?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it all kinda happened within a few days. Me and my partner went through a really big breakup. I mean, and it lasted a long while too. That was really, really hard. And then at the same time, I had some roommates moving out. So literally I had like 3 people moving out of my house at once. So my rent just like quadrupled and I didn't have money for it and I lost like the best relationship I've ever had at this point. So that was very difficult. I mean, this person is the absolute world to me, and with them, I found a lot of motivation. I found a lot of drive to want to better myself with them, for myself. Like I had all these goals and ambitions for myself and for our future. And so that just kind of crumbled. And one of the things that helped me the most through this was reminding myself of those small steps. So, like,
Mm,
I couldn't get my water intake in. I couldn't bring myself to go work out. I couldn't bring myself to make all these snacks and meals for myself. And so, what I did do was I got myself out of bed every day. I got dressed. I may have gotten dressed in sweats and a sweatshirt, but I'm
I
out of
still
bed
got
and I
dressed.
have
Yep.
clothes on.
Yeah.
And through that, every day I was able to like wash my face, brush my hair, and brush my teeth. That was it. Like,
Mm,
that's all I could bring myself to do, and I reached out to you and, like, you helped me feel a lot more comfortable with that. Like, "Hey, like,
mm,
it's okay to take a step back and rest and reset because if we're still trying to do everything on top of this, like, it's not gonna feel best. It's not gonna be our best work. It's not gonna be the best for ourselves." Sometimes we really do just need to pause and reset and, like,
mhm.
recalibrate where we are,
Yes,
and
and almost
then
change the standard of, like, what's that one thing? Like, if we're only gonna do one thing for our health, like, I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, I'll meditate every day because that's my one thing," or, "I'll journal," or, "I'll go for a workout." And I think it's hard to, like, go from that to that because you had already accepted at that point in the program that I just need to do something versus nothing. But we changed what that something was. The baseline changed where it was like, okay, in this season, my something has to be brushing my teeth, brushing my hair, changing my clothes. And those are even three things. Sometimes we only can do one of those, right? So it's like these were my little things. Whereas before, when I wasn't in this difficult season, of course I was going to do those things and I was going to do something else on top of it. And that was my one thing. But it's like, no, 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 wait back. This was my new baseline. So I think it's very difficult to get comfortable with that. And I'm so proud of you for leaning into that and staying consistent with that because that helped you build the muscle for following through on commitments to yourself and rebuilt momentum back in your life and helped you
yeah.
feel grounded when so much was out of your control. That was something that you could control.
Yes, I'm also very thankful, the job that I was working with, I was a well, I still am a caregiver, just different company now. but it was really, really hard to be able to care for my clients as
Mm,
well as caring for myself. Like, if you can't
yeah.
take care of yourself, you really don't feel like you're taking care of clients very well, and they didn't deserve that. So I called one of my supervisors and pretty much broke down to her, and she totally understood. She's been there
Mm,
before as well. She's had to take time off of work, and so she's like, "Look, we'll see how much sick time you have so that you don't have to go without pay, and, like, let's get you some time off. Like, take care of yourself, eat ice cream, and watch Netflix for 2 weeks if you have to," and,
yeah.
like, that totally wasn't my vibe. What I ended up doing was small things for myself, but being able to take those 2 weeks off of work while getting paid, I was so, so, so appreciative of. And I found time for myself to, like, read books, which really helped me.
Yeah.
Atomic
Mhm.
Habits by James Clear was absolutely amazing. I literally recommend it to anyone who wants to,
So
like,
good.
up their life. And then one that I'm still working on that is just blowing my mind is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. That one
Mm,
is, like, on a quantum atomic level, like, bettering yourself and, like, rewiring your
mm,
old ways of living and things like that. So, like, that was very beneficial. I moved my entire room around because in Atomic Habits, he explains, like, you can't build old habits in an environment where those old habits play. And
mm,
so changing your environment, changing the energy and, like, the flow of where these things are that create those habits is so important. And so, like, to be honest, I just couldn't sleep or be in the same room that, like, me and my partner had, like, rearranged and moved for ourselves.
mm.
Like, every time I walked in, I was just, like, reminded of everything, and so I couldn't do that to myself, so I moved my entire room around, and it felt so much better, and just, like,
Yeah.
doing these little things to make little adjustments and, like, make it back to myself again.
Mhm. Oh, I love that so much. You have a little feng shui there, dive into personal development, opening up to your community. Hey, I need help. It's so hard for people to ask for help. And you were like, this is what I'm going through. I'm going to be really transparent. You were with me and with your boss too. Hey, I need some support right now. I need some community. What can I do? And People's Grace, we were really able to give you the space to get the insights that you needed from those books and to be able to care for yourself. And we have to feel to heal. If you just continue to plow through and work through that and care for other people when you weren't pouring into yourself and you're just pouring from an empty pitcher, like, number one, that's not sustainable. That is like the quickest way to burn out. But it doesn't feel aligning, and it doesn't help the people on the other end of that. We have to pour into ourselves in order to pour out into other people. So I'm really happy that you went through that process of feel to heal, because if you avoid that feeling process and really slowing down and giving yourself that time, it will catch up with you, and it will be harder for you to work through that difficult time.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the last thing that helped me as well was you sent me a 5-minute journal, which I had been wanting for a long time, but and it literally came, like, I think a week or 2 weeks after all of this blew up, and I got it in the mail, and I just, like, had tears in my eyes, and so that's been really cool to focus on the positives, even though so much, quote, unquote, "negative" is swirling around sometimes in our lives, like, bringing ourselves back to those small little positives, small little things of, like, gratitude is
Mm,
beyond helpful. Like, I didn't even realize how much just, like, focusing on that helps carry that throughout your day and throughout your night, and so that I'm very
yes.
thankful for that. Thank you so much. That has
Oh,
helped
oh my
me
gosh.
tremendously, you have no idea.
Wow. Oh my
I'd
gosh.
still do it
It's my
every day and every
pleasure.
night.
Yay, because it's so easy. I love the 5-minute journal, and I truly think it should be called the 2-minute journal. I know I say this every time I talk about it, but it takes so little time. And one thing that I think, whether consciously you've realized this or subconsciously, that journal helped you with the little things, like what can I control, what can I, and what can I do
Mhm.
each day. The section that's, or I have literally have it right here next to me. Always, we're literally attached with it. Okay, so one of the questions in the morning says, "What would make today great?" And in the beginning, when it explains how to use the journal, it talks about this, that you shouldn't put things in there like, "Well, I hope my flight's on time," or "I hope I have a smooth flight. I hope I don't hit traffic," or "I hope the weather's nice. That would make today great if it was a sunny day and didn't rain." It's like, okay, but you can't control those things. So write down 3 things that would make your day great that you actually can control. And I think that
Right,
can get you
something
to
that
see
comes
like,
from you.
yes, yes. And I think for you, it's like, okay, well, I can control if I put on some clothes, if I brush my teeth, if I brush my hair, if I read a couple pages of my book today. Maybe I won't finish a whole chapter, but I could read 10 pages or I could read for 10 minutes. I
Mhm.
could change my space. I could reach out to a friend. I could do Pilates. I know that was something that you've, gotten into and that really helped you as well to changing the form of movement that you were doing. So yeah, what's in your control? And I think the 5-minute journal is so great about giving you the questions to write out, because sometimes looking at a blank journal, you're not really sure what to write. And it helps you build the habit for how can I make my day great? When there's so many outside circumstances that we can't control, what can I do to make my own happiness a choice? Oh, I'm so excited. Is there anything else about your story that you wanna say to the audience? Any other, like, words of wisdom or things you've picked up or things that were helpful?
Um, Something that's been helpful for me through all of this is like trying new things. So like you said, I've been
Mm,
doing Pilates recently. That's very, very good for me. Uh, and so I'm diving deeper into that. I'm doing that like twice a week. I kind of fell
yeah.
off of it last month, but that's okay. We get back on it and it's all good.
Yep, yep.
And then there's been a lot of life changes with me. I've made some healthier choices on getting sober and getting my life together and
Mm,
just really focusing on me and putting myself first. And
yeah.
so sometimes with that, you lose some friends, you lose a
Mhm.
little bit of your circle, but finding solitude and joy in things that
Mm,
I want to do is very, very peaceful. It's really humbling. And so something that I'm looking for this month and I'm gonna take with me is I want to start going to slam poetry. And nobody that I know is like into that, and that's totally fine. But that's something that I'm gonna do for myself by myself.
yes, I
And
love that. So
so
slam poetry.
yeah, I don't know where it came from.
I
Actually, I do.
love it.
I totally know where it came from. I was watching Ginny and Georgia. I don't know if you've seen that episode or that
No,
series, but it literally got me like through my breakup. I swear to God, Ginny and Georgia saved me through this. I binged the whole thing.
I love it.
And one of the characters just writes beautifully, absolutely beautifully. And she went to a slam poetry night with her dad. And then like a week or two later ended up presenting one of her slam poetries and like I was just
Mm,
so inspired by it. I've been reading a
mm.
lot and, like, I've been trying to grow my vocabulary and things like that, and it's just it's a peaceful environment that's not going to the bars and going out and doing all these things that I used to do that's really, like, not the best for me, and so finding other alternatives that entertain my time without it being the typical 20-something-year-old activities, like, I'm kinda burnt out on that, and so slam poetry, Pilates, I wanna do, like, rock climbing
Yeah,
when it
I
gets
just went rock
nicer
climbing
out.
last weekend. I went to an indoor one, and it was really awesome. I was surprised by how much I liked it. So, yeah, I think trying new things can really break up old patterns and get
Mhm,
you to like, realize different things about yourself. I was like, as I was rock climbing, that's not really a type of movement that I typically do, but I was like, wow, I realized like how strong I am and how much
mhm.
courage I have for trying new things and hopping up on the wall when other people are watching me. And it was a very humbling experience. I could only get up about halfway on the wall, and there's literally a literal 4-year-old next to me at the top of the not mountain, but like the wall. I was very much humbled, and the first time I went up, I was hanging there, like, maybe 3 feet off the ground the first time and I literally started tearing up. My friend's like, "Okay, just practice coming down and, like, sitting into the harness, and, like, it will catch you. It doesn't feel like it's gonna catch you, but it's gonna catch you, and you'll slowly come down." And I'm like, "I can't do it. I literally can't do it." And this little 5-year-old just whips past me, from the top and comes all the way down. I'm like, why can't I go 3 feet? I'm like, I'm so scared. Anyway, but after I got past that first time, it was fine. And I was like, wow, I actually have a lot of courage for doing this. And so you realize a lot about yourself when you put
Mhm.
yourself in those different scenarios, and it helps to break up the routine and create new patterns and new routines.
Right,
Oh,
and it's
I
so
love it.
important to do those things, like, for yourself too, like, if nobody else wants to join you on that journey, do it for yourself. That's totally okay. Take
Mm,
yourself on solo dates. Have a solo day with yourself and just do what you want to do. It doesn't matter if you're
yes.
literally just like sitting there in the sun reading a book in a park with fruit. I do that all the time. But
That sounds
like
amazing. That sounds
it's so
phenomenal.
nice.
Like, ideal
It's so
day.
you can't always depend on everyone wanting to do everything with you. Like,
Mhm.
it's totally okay to do that alone. And also something that I'm trying to do within that is since some room in my friend circle has kind of cleared up and they're just in some unhealthy patterns that I don't
Mm.
align with anymore. I'm trying to put myself in places where I can meet people that do align with where I want to go
Yeah,
because who
yeah,
you
such a good
surround
point.
yourself with is such a big impact on who you are. And
Mhm,
so if you're surrounding yourself with people that don't align, then something needs to change. So putting myself in
mhm.
Pilates classes or mostly with trying to go to these slam poetry nights, I'm trying to meet people that are either where I want to be or just aligned with where I'm at.
Mm. So good, because that's how you progress and that's how you be about being better.
Mhm.
See people who are ahead of you on the journey that you want to be like, that have the life that you want to have or have something that you want to have, so that you can learn from them and learn from their mistakes. You can avoid their pitfalls or just be inspired by them. And then to be around people that are in the same phase of your journey, that have the lifestyle that you're looking for and maybe aren't doing the habits that you're trying to get away from. That is how you better yourself. So good. And when people leave your life and kind of prune away, like if you're kind of cutting things off a tree, pruning away, it's more of a gardening term. That's not always a bad thing. Sometimes things have to leave your life. And we see this, we both just went through breakups, so we get it. Sometimes
Mhm.
people or things, opportunities have to leave our life so that we can add more into our life. Because sometimes these other things are taking up energy, taking up space, taking up time, attention, money. That's taking away from our actual purpose. That's taking away from our ability to get to the next level. So we have addition by subtraction. And I think that's what
Yes,
we've both
ma'am.
experienced. Slay! Yes. Okay. So, last question. We always close out with this, but what is one thing you're going to do this week to make your week better?
Honestly, I just decided like 2 weeks ago that I wanted to do the slam poetry night. And like the snow where I'm at is finally
Mm,
going away. Thank God the sun is coming out. And I
yes.
found a couple of local slam poetry nights here. I don't know how they're gonna go, but something that I do want to do for myself. Um, I'm going on a trip with my family here soon, and I want to try to find slam poetry night in every city that I go to. So I think,
Yes.
yeah. So this week I'm gonna try to go to some locally, and then in like 2 weeks, I think we're going down to Portland, Oregon.
That's, like, the right city for sure.
Yes.
Amazing. Well, Marliese, thank you so much for joining the show and sharing your insights in your growth and just being so honest and transparent. Your journey is really inspiring, and especially coming from such a low with your eating disorder history and having to be, inpatient multiple times, like that is not an easy thing to crawl out of. And look at you now. Now you're diving into personal development. You have a healthy relationship with food. You're learning to love yourself and be comfortable being on your own. And these different emotional waves that you're going through are no longer impacting your eating because you have tools in your toolbox that allow you to, okay, even if emotionally I'm not there or if I don't have a good appetite, here are some things that I can employ that would stimulate my appetite and make me feel better because I know I need to nourish myself. And I'm building the habit for how do I show myself that I care, love, and respect myself. You're building that habit and you're just an amazing example. And if it's possible for you, it's possible for so many other people too that are listening. So thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you. Yeah, going through a quarter life crisis is weird, but I got the tools to go with it.
Yes, 100%. Bye, girl.
Bye.
Hey y'all, thanks again for listening to the Be About Being Better podcast. I so appreciate you. If this episode made you laugh, smile, think about yourself or your life differently, in any way making your life better, I empower you to share the show with 3 people who, just like you, need to hear this message and have this type of transformation in their lives. I personally read all the reviews of the show and see the Instagram story shares, and it honestly gives me so much joy to see that our mission is making people's lives better, and the reviews really do help in increasing our impact. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that. If you need personalized support with anything discussed in today's episode or need help creating a sustainable, diet-free lifestyle, take my quiz. It's linked below in the show notes, and that quiz will help you see which one of our coaching programs is right for you. Thank you so much again for listening, and here's to being about being better.